Good morning. Ever since PV2's 0.31 patch and its changes to the towers and mapping systems, I've been in maps testing out different strategies to map choosing for about a week now on my stream. So today I wanted to share my final thoughts and the different strategies that I've been using to get the most out of every single waystone that I am running on any of my characters. This video is going to cover strictly the strategies in relation to actual map choosing on your atlas, not other strategies like citadel hopping or negative rarity base farming. If you want to check out those strategies, I'm gonna advise you to check out Farmer's latest video here on YouTube for a good guide on how to make currency with citadels. If you want to learn about negative rarity farming and how to utilize that strategy to farm and sell bases, go check out Mr. 9 Lives on Twitch, who I would say is the foremost expert on that strategy. Also, go check out Ron Array's video on what he thinks are the best currency making strategies in one of his most recent videos, which was also a very good collection of farming strategies in my opinion. So let's get into the different ways of how I have been crafting my waystones for the last week to maximize my currency gains while doing maps. The first strategy is the one that I've been using for most of my maps during the last week, and this is the one with the use of the Omen of Chaotic Rarity. So we have a fully exalted out map here, and first thing we're gonna do is use the Omen of Chaotic Rarity to get a bunch of item rarity onto our map here. The next step is going to be to desecrate this map. We can either just desecrate for either a prefix or a suffix here with the preserved vertebrae, but also what you can do to improve your chances in getting a good desecrate here, and especially to get the chance to get the overrun mod onto your map is use the Omen of Sinistral Necromancy here. So in this case, we are going to use that Omen to get a guaranteed prefix desecrate here. So then we have this prefix desecrate onto our map. And then we go into the well and reveal the modifier. And then we have a priority list, which I will put on screen right now in terms of what to look for in terms of desecrated modifiers. So the first priority when it comes to desecrated modifiers is always going to be abysses have additional pits and the area is overrun by the abyssal. So that is always going to be priority number one when it comes to your maps. And it is just going to be the best one that you can have on any map that you will be doing, whether it is on a cleansed area, whether it's just a map that you're doing, and whatever omen you are using. So always overrun by the abyssal first priority. Second priority is also going to be a prefix, and that is also a reason why we can definitely use the Omen of Sinistral Necromancy to get a guaranteed prefix, because the first two priorities are going to be those prefixes, and that is the second priority of additional pits, which gives our map 25% map rarity. The third priority is the first suffix here, and it is a very, very good one. And if your build is able to live through that suffix modifier, it is definitely one of the best ones to choose here as well. And that is the suffix of players are marked for death. That suffix modifier adds 40% map rarity and also 10% pack size. So also a very, very good desecrated mod to have on your maps at all times. Next priority is going to be rare monsters have an additional extra abyssal modifier that adds some rare packs to the map, but also when rare monsters have a additional modifier, that always means that the rare monster has basically increased quantity in terms of item drops. So that is the next priority, also a very, very good one. Next one is going to be natural rare monsters in area are a union of souls with a map boss. That is just going to add a amount of 50% more rare monsters to your maps, which is also very, very good. And then as a backup for the last one, it is always going to be Abyss in area has always rewards, which adds some magic packs, which we are not really looking for, but also it adds more rare monsters. So that is the priority list in terms of desecrated mods for whatever you're doing to your maps. So then if we desecrate here and we choose one of those, we didn't really get one of those ones here, but then after the fact, after all the ones that I've just listed here, then you can basically just pick and choose what you want. For example, Abyssal lead to an Abyssal Depth here adds item rarity again. Then also these ones here, monsters from abysses have increased difficulty and reward for each closed pits that in that abyss. That is a very good example of these ones you can use on maps that are already overrun, for example. I think this is the best one for those maps. In this case, we're just gonna pick this one to get some item rarity onto the map. So when we now are done with this one and we have desecrated this map, the last step is only going to be to now instill emotions onto our maps. And in this case, I'm just going to use 2 paranoia and 1 fear. Usually, I would say you should just go, and in terms of just keeping it a little bit lower on the cost side for a map, 3 paranoia I think is always the way to go, to just add more rare monsters. On the good maps, when you, for example, have an overrun map, or if you have one of the desired desecrated mods that are very, very good for the map, you can always also just add 1 fear to, once again, have a chance to have an additional modifiers on all the rares. So that is already it for this map. And now we have a map with 30% rare monsters and 131% item rarity. What is the next step is always going to be the tablets, of course. The way I've been running these rarity maps over the last week has been using 2 breach tablets with number of rare monster increase and 1 irradiated tablet also with rare monsters. There's also a possibility where you can just add 2 rare monster tablets and add 1 rarity tablet, for example. That has also been working out pretty well for me. And also, in my opinion, there is still a definite possibility to maybe weave in 1 or 2 quantity tablets as well to basically triple dip. All of your maps like that will also will then always have map rarity. They will also have always a very big amount of rare monsters, which is just gonna be good for currency drops for any character that will be running, whether it has 50% rarity, whether it has 150% rarity, or even more than that. So on the tablets, again, I think the best version for this here is going to be rare monsters and maybe even a rarity tablet. But also as a backup, you can also, of course, use 1 or 2 quantity tablets as well. So that is strategy number 1 that I've been using to great effect over the last week. And it has worked very, very well in terms of currency drops on all the maps. And yes, that is strategy number 1. The next strategy is going to involve the Omen of Chaotic Monsters. There is a little bit of a crux to this strategy that I will explain once we use the Chaos Orb here. So next one is going to be the Chaotic Monsters here. So I have 5 maps right here, and you will see what I mean when there is a crux to the strategy. So we have fully exalted them out now, and we are mainly here looking, of course, on the map for rare monsters. So this one has 122% rare monsters, which is more than enough than we need here. This one already is a little bit lower and has a bunch of more magic monsters. We will put that one to the side. This one basically rolled only magic monsters, which is also going to be put to the side. This one again, and then this one again. This is a very good example of what can happen when you use this Omen of Chaotic Monsters, because now the magic monsters on this map is way, way too high for us to really use this map just to have the way of farming the rare monsters here. But also there is another thing that I have gotten right here, which is rare monsters have an additional modifier. This is very, very good for what we're trying to do in this case, but all of the other ones here are not good for the strategy that I've been running. What I will say here is these maps are actually going to be very, very good if you are ritual farming. So if you are going for ritual juicing, you can use these additional magic monster maps for that strategy. That is the ritual farming, because magic monsters that spawn into a ritual will be very, very plenty with this strategy and will give you a lot of tribute. And this is generally a very, very good strategy when it comes to ritual farming. But what we are doing here is we are targeting rare monsters again, and we also want to target additional modifiers on those rare monsters. So those 2 maps are a good example of what we want to get out when we use this strategy. So once again, we are desecrating, so let's use 1 prefix desecrate for this one and 1 normal desecrate for this one. Put it into the well and look for the modifiers here. And now you can see already on the prefix desecrate, we get the overrun. So perfect example here. Now we have one overrun map with 96% rare monsters, which is very, very good. And all of the rare monsters have one additional modifier. This is very, very good to have a map like this as a baseline, basically. Next one we're also gonna put into the well. And here we have Marked for Death, which I already showed you is the best suffix modifier. So perfect example for what we want here in terms of maps. These are basically two of the best outcomes that we have, that we can get here on the map. So this one overrun with 96% rare monsters. And then we have a non-overrun, but with Marked for Death and some additional rare monsters and item rarity. Actually, this one, for example, would probably not be used. I just realized we had the additional modifier on the overrun map, which is even better. This one I would probably not use. We have only 28% rare monsters, 121% magic monsters. So this is probably going into the ritual farming stash. But we can use this one as an example here. So we have a perfect overrun by the abyssal map here with a bunch of rare monsters. Next thing is, of course, again, going to be the instillment of emotions here on this map right here. Usually, if you are going for the strategy, I would just again go triple paranoia to get as many rare monsters additionally on this map as you can, especially if you have the modifier of rare monsters have one additional modifier. But because, of course, if you have more rare monsters with more additional modifiers, that is just on the maximum, it is just going to be the best you can go for. On this overrun map here, you have a bunch of different choices. I personally, over the last week, I have had very, very good results with triple fear, especially on these overrun maps, and especially when we have a bunch of more rare monsters on these maps. I really like going for triple fear here to have even more modifiers on the mobs and on the rare monsters that we have in this abyssal map. So very, very good example for a basically perfect map for when you juice with the Omen of Chaotic Monsters here. So what is missing now on this map, of course, is the map rarity. So for the map rarity, then we are going to be using rarity tablets for this strategy. So this comes basically down to the same thing that we did in the previous strategy. We want as many rare monsters on our maps, and we want a lot of item rarity on our map. So we got the rare monsters this time here through the Chaotic Monsters Omen, and now we are going to get the map rarity with our tablets. So 3 tablets here, once again 2 breach tablets with breaches in map spawn additional rare monsters, and then an irradiated tablet with some more rarity. So this map is going to have about 150 rarity when the Atlas applies and whatever on as a map rarity on the map, and we are also going to have a bunch of additional rare monsters on this maps. Basically, these two strategies come down to the same thing, which is we are juicing all of our maps with additional rare monsters and map rarity. Another thing that is very, very important to mention here is where should we use our best maps on our Atlas. And of course, as most of you already know, the absolute best way to utilize your maps on your Atlas and to get the most currency drops imaginable is going to be all the cleansed areas here, because those cleansed areas will also be spawning the additional packs of cleansed monsters, and those cleansed monsters have basically only the chance to drop currency. So much higher chance of actually dropping currency on these cleansed maps. There are quite a few different ones. For example, this is an example for one that is not going to be good because increased gold found in this area. This will heavily inhibit your opportunities of dropping currency in these, because it has been proven time and time again that increased gold drops will inhibit your way. They basically share a pool with the currency drops, so gold found is not the way to go here. But you will have these ones, for example, with just the cleansed monsters, and then you will also have different ones with, for example, Mountain in Greed, which is very good because it just increases your rarity on the map. Then we have the Obelisk of Cleansing, which is also basically going to increase your rarity. Then you have Gold Found again, which is not the one. Then we have this area right here with more effect of prefix modifiers and less effect of suffix modifiers, which can also be very, very good depending on the map that you're doing. But the absolute best cleansed modifier on these maps is always going to be this one, which is going to be minus experience gain, then the additional packs of cleared cleansed monsters, but then also a just very, very high amount of rarity of items found in this area. This is by far the best one. So always keep your absolute best maps for exactly these areas. There's also another one with reduced quantity and higher rarity. These ones have also been pretty bad. You can still run them though. You will always have the off chance of getting good drops with the massive amounts of rarity, but the reduced quantity hits pretty hard. But like I said, the absolute best one is going to be this one with the just increased rarity of items found in this area on top of the additional packs of cleansed monsters. So use these strategies onto your maps, and I will basically guarantee you will at least get a few things here and there on every single map. Most likely, of course, nothing is guaranteed in an RNG-filled game like this. I can only say I've used these strategies on my maps for the past week now to very good results, and I think this is the best way if you are going for map choosing, and if you are deciding to run your maps like this. This is definitely one of these two is definitely going to be one of the best ways to get some currency in your maps and to juice up your maps the best way possible. So I hope once again this will help some people, and maybe you have seen some things that you haven't known before, or you've picked some map choosing strategies up that you haven't known about. This is basically what I've been doing for the past week, and I've been mass crafting my maps pretty much and just picking and choosing between the ones that I've been doing here. So I'm basically always just mass crafting all my maps, and then I'm sorting them in a way where I can just pick and choose, and I can just go for like item rarity on these. These will all have item rarity, and then you can just go like this, and then you can look for example, if we go into this one, and then we go, for example, I'm just looking for overrun maps, and then we pick out our overrun map that we have crafted here. We can check it out. This one has magic monsters. This one, let's just take this one for example, and then we have this one, and then I can decide, oh yeah, I wanna go for like double fear, or like I wanna paranoia this out to get this one, and then I'm looking for the map that I will be doing. So I have bookmarked a bunch of cleansed area here on my atlas, and then I go to one of the cleansed areas and I just pick out the map that I will be doing, and then I pick and choose, oh yeah, this canyon map is going to be my overall map, and then I have, for example, like I have 71% rare monsters on this one, and then I just want to have some rarity on this map, and then we are gonna have a bunch of rare monsters on this map in addition to our rarity tablets here to get up our rarity. Overall, like I already said, I think the best way to get currency drops in maps right now is going to be to maximize your amount of rare monsters, and then also to maximize your amount of map rarity. I've also had some success with weaving in some quantity on top of that, but I think if you do not have a bunch of rare monsters on your maps, and if you do not have map rarity, I think you're gonna have a bad time, and quantity will not really do anything if you do not have the base rarity on your maps like that. So really hope this helps some of you out and you can get some nice currency drops. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna finish this video. If you want to see me what I do with my juice maps and how I'm looking when I'm running my maps, check out my stream where I'm streaming Path of Exile 2 every single day. Okay, that's gonna be it. Love you. Bye.